You may have seen Dr. Nick Colostrom featured on my show, and his book, in my opinion, is the most important or the most accurate book on the London bombings. That's a book called Behind the Veil of 7/7, Terror on the Tube. Now, he's written this new, very controversial book called Breaking the Spell about the Holocaust and Auschwitz. And he asked me, would I interview him on Rich Planet for it? And I said, well, people said to me, don't touch that with a barge pole, Richard. It's far too controversial. I'm just going to make one point. I'm not putting this up because I agree with the findings in it or I agree with what Nick Colostrom says in it. One of the central points in this book, and Dr. Colostrom has done a lot of research into this, he's very knowledgeable on the subject, is that nobody in World War II in the concentration camps was killed using cyclone gas or cyanide. According to Dr. Colostrom, that was an invention. Very, very controversial, obviously, and that's why I haven't interviewed him on it. And I'm not saying that I agree with it. But what I said to him was, I says, look, Nick, I'll interview you if I can find someone, a World War II expert, who can sit and argue the point with you, and I will host the discussion as an independent person. I can't do fairer than that. Now, I put an appeal out on the show asking for experts on World War II. Can anyone refute the claims in this book? No one's contacted me. I've asked all the audiences on this tour if anyone has that expertise or evidence to show that the claim is true about cyanide being... there's other claims in here as well. No one came forward. So I emailed the CST. This is quite a while back. I emailed them. This is the organization that protects the Jewish community and looks out for anti-Semitism and that kind of thing. I was told that this would be the best organization to approach. I said, could you provide someone either to refute the claims in the book or do an interview with Dr. Colostrom, or do you have a comment on it? I emailed them twice and I've never heard from them. So the point I want to make is that no one so far has come forward saying that they can refute the claims in this book. Nick says you won't get anyone. Right? He's confident of his research. But like I say, I'm making that point because I've not been able to get anyone to refute those claims. Okay. Now, in my last lecture, I spoke about false heroes and role models, and these are people in the mainstream media who are promoted in order to influence and control people's minds with regards to science, alternative politics, or celebrity. Now, one of the names which came up that people voted for as a fake hero is this guy. Anyone know what this guy's name is? Stephen Hawking. Anyone know who this is? Stephen Hawking. Let's put them side by side. Anyone care to guess how old the guy on the left is? Shout out an age. 50, 70, any more? 73. The guy on the right, give me an age. 60, 35. Let's put the ages in. This is Hawking, age 40 in 1982. This is Hawking in 2007, age 65. This is a recent image of Stephen Hawking and his teeth. Now, I said in a previous lecture that I didn't think that they were dentures, that they've got to be real teeth. Dentists wouldn't give you dentures like that. So if you compare it with a much earlier image, his bottom teeth seem to be ground right down to the bone. So my comment was, did his teeth grow back? Now, I have been contacted by a dentist who reckons that the teeth on the right, they might be dentures. He's not 100%, but he says it's possible. Let's look at these two images. Do you believe they are the same person? Look carefully. Look carefully. The one on the right is much more recent. The one on the left is, I think, from probably the late 70s or early 80s. Here's Hawking in the 60s, 70s, 80s. This is him now. Do you believe that is the same person? This comes from a paper by Miles Mathis entitled Stephen Hawking Died and Has Been Replaced. Now then, which I find persuasive. I've been downloading hundreds of images of Stephen Hawking trying to find further evidence about this. But for me, this is the most strongest evidence, what I'm about to read you. Hawking has amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The average survival time for ALS is 4 years. When Hawking was first diagnosed in 1963, doctors gave him 2 years to live. Hawking has had ALS for over 52 years, which is a record by many decades. Jason Becker is the only person I have heard of who has lived more than 20 years with the disease. So there is about a 3-decade difference between the longest survivor and the second longest survivor. And yet, here we are, 52 years later and counting. It appears the real Hawking did beat the odds and live for about 20 years, but at some point he was replaced. I have no proof he died, but I assume that is why they replaced him. He was a very useful public relations entity for physics, and they didn't want to lose him. So there's your reason, yeah? Let's assume it's true. You can see why they might do it, because we know, if you watch Rich Planet, that there are things in science which have been covered up. Cold fusion technology, free energy technology, directed energy weapons, possibly anti-gravitic propulsion systems, all kinds of things, right? So if you're going to keep that type of thing covered up in physics, you're not going to want scientists, real scientists, investigating those things and talking about them, right? So you can see a motive there. And this guy is treated like a god. No one can question Hawking. He's far too clever, isn't he? Stuff like this. Shit.